All right.
Welcome,
We're
welcome to the
here.
latest. Oh my God, who's gonna talk first? It's gonna be Joe Boris. We're here the day after a horrific earnings call from Tesla. Those of you who have given up shorting Tesla stock over the years, yesterday was your day and you missed it.
You missed it.
Yeah, they're down more than 10%, 9% in trading since this morning. They were down 6% yesterday on a horrific earnings call that honestly wasn't that horrific. We're still talking about a profitable company. We're still talking about a company that's growing. But when your entire corporate culture is based on the idea of infinite demand, 50% growth year over year for the next 20 years or something, and a overhyped product that is not quite ready yet, it's a little upsetting, right?
Yes. I mean, I just want to start with some acknowledgments on my end because sometimes people don't know the history of the past decade or decade plus. I mean, I have been I was a Model S owner, had a Tesla shuttle startup. I was covering Tesla since 2012, in which I was getting a lot of recognition nationally and internationally for going against the FUD, the kind of attacks on Tesla. We had projects on this. I I've been invited to Tesla conference calls where I got to ask Elon Musk questions. We toured Tesla factories no one else has toured. I had Elon Musk follows for years on Twitter, and we had many DMs back and forth. So we have a history of I have a history of being very pro Tesla. I've had a Model 3 for 4 years. And, you know, I think that was really quite uh, deserved, and it proved that Tesla could become what we thought Tesla could become by 2020, selling 500,000 vehicles a year. As Tesla got so successful and so big, a couple things happened. So one, I think people got a little over exuberant with what's possible. It was like
Yeah.
previously the sky was the limit. Now Mars is the limit, or the next galaxy is the limit. And it started to get a little bit like, oh, is this really is this am I is this possible? First of all, if I don't think this is possible, am I being like the naysayers that I was fighting against for several years? Am I the one who's going to be on the wrong side of history again by thinking
Too
this stuff,
small.
this is too much, this is too ambitious? Or am I getting the story right and the story is changing because it's not this, like, this is not going to happen, so that's one thing. Second thing is, in my opinion, when Tesla became profitable and sort of proved all the critics wrong, instead of it went from, and Elon Musk went from punching up to punching down and sort
Yeah.
of becoming the bully that many people saw Big Auto as, and big media as, and sort of flipping in the other direction. And I think there's been a lot of that in the past few years, and especially with a lot of people just coming into the company through the stock or because of the stock, or because they got rich on the stock because they were right early on, like I was, about what Tesla would
You
become.
got rich on the stock?
No, no, but I did
Oh,
not.
I
But
was gonna say
I didn't
I
have enough
didn't
money.
realize that.
I didn't have enough money to
They
put into
asking
the
for more
stock.
money.
If I
Oh,
had if I had been rich enough early on, I would have become much richer. But I
yeah,
didn't have
my
enough
like
money to put in.
no, and you make a very good point about Tesla was punching up in the early days, and I was one of those naysayers. I was one of those people. Thank God that whoever was we sold gas to, whoever bought gas two from us managed it badly and destroyed it, because there's a whole lot of articles written by me about how Tesla is never going to happen, that they have very conveniently eliminated from the internet. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was wrong about a lot of this, but I
I
was
don't
one
even
of those.
remember. I don't remember seeing that from you. I remember you,
I
being
was very critical. I
not
was
bullish.
very critical. Was I was the one saying very loudly that this battery swap thing was a scam. I thought
Well, that might have
very,
been.
yeah, well,
That might have been a carb credit thing.
there was a whole lot of like, this underground subway is a terrible idea. There was, but I
Oh,
think
yeah, I
just
agree with that too.
fundamentally, I thought he was lying about stuff. Like when he was making comments about, we're going to have 50% year over year growth and we're going to sell 2 million of these. I was just like, there's no way that's going to happen. Like, just no, like, you're not going to do that. You're not. And I'm talking about, there's stuff that I said about the guy that I was right about, but there's a lot of stuff that I was wrong about, that I just said, you're never going to sell 2 million of these. You're never going to, usurp Mercedes Benz and Audi and all that. And your best bet was, I thought your best bet was to go after the extreme high end of the market, Rolls Royce, things like that, where you can be successful on 1,500 or 2,000 units a year, and until the economies of scale catch up. And he really proved me wrong, multiple times, and especially when it came time to build the Model 3 and the Model Y. So again,
I think there's a few things just right there from what you said, and trying to understand Elon is a complicated business. Like I think I understand him really well, but I think that his recent biographer, Walter Isaacson, has said it really well, which is there's several Elons. Like you cannot say this is Elon, because one moment he's this, one moment he's this. He has very different personalities that drive what he's doing, what he's saying sometimes. And
right.
I
And
think
he has enough money that we interpret that a certain way. If he had less money, we would say he was bipolar.
yeah, or I mean, yeah, even so. But I think also, like, one part of him is he doesn't want to just he doesn't want to make money. I don't think that's he just wants to make money. He always wants to
It's
do
not a
something.
profit motive.
He
Sure.
wants to change the world. He has I think Isaacson has also said he has a kind of hero complex. He wants to be the hero. He's very enamored with movies and books, and wants to be in one of these stories and be the hero of the story. And he wants to change the world. And he's ridiculously overly optimistic, as he will say himself. He's an extreme optimist, and that's what makes a lot of things possible. And in all kinds of aspects of life, 9 out of 10 people will fail at something, but 1 out of 10 will succeed. And it's got to be an optimist. You're not going to do something where 1% or less than 1% of people succeed and actually succeed unless you were overly optimistic about your possibility or chances of succeeding. You have to be. So
Sure.
that's part of his thing. And we saw that come through many times. And I think people like you and others sometimes just see it as he's just lying. And I think it's more of a case of he's so optimistic about what's possible that it's beyond lying. It's like he believes, okay, I can do it, And I have that mentality with some things, so I completely relate to it. It's like you just think, well, someone's got to achieve it. It's got to be possible for someone. Mm-hmm. And with Tesla itself, the funny thing is that he never really thought Tesla was going to succeed. He thought they were going to die. He thought they were not going to succeed. Of course, every step of the day by day, he's doing his best to make it succeed. And there were many times when Tesla might have failed, and Joe Boris could come out and say, I was right all along. I mean,
but you don't want to be right. You don't
amount of luck.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't want to be right. I want Tesla to take over. I want all of us to be running in hyper efficient vehicles that are affordable, that are low cost, that last for hundreds of thousands of miles, that don't need to be replaced every year because they're constantly changed. Like, I want to be wrong about Tesla. But it's not my cynicism necessarily about Elon, of which I have plenty, and it's not my cynicism about manufacturing, of which I have a lot. It's more of my cynicism of American culture and consumer culture in general that I see getting in the way of Elon. I think he has great success being the hot new shiny toy. He's had great success marketing Tesla as a tech company and saying, like, we're a robotaxi, we're technology, we're robots, we're spaceships, we're all of this. But at the end of the day, I think enough time is going to pass that he's going to be a car company. And what happens to the ego, and what happens to the momentum, and what happens to the fan base when these vehicles that have such a strong brand today become commoditized and just become a commodity? And that's no bueno. That's no good for I think the EV movement right now, that is powered by these legacy brands trying to capture some of that Wall Street magic. Because again, we talk about this too, that the job of the CEO is to create value for the shareholders, not to produce vehicles that the consumers and public wants. And Tesla has been able to drive value for its shareholders without necessarily building a whole ton of vehicles. So I think if things go bad for Tesla, it's going to go bad for EVs and climate reduction in general because of that.
Well,
And
it's interesting.
so I
It's
hope it
interesting
doesn't go that way.
hearing you put your opinion out there like that, because it's not what I expect off the surface, you know. But I was thinking a couple of minutes ago, looking at this related stocks on the side, that BYD stock is down 3.4%, and is that related to Tesla being down? You know,
Oh yeah,
but so Tesla's
absolutely.
down 15%, 14% in the past 5 days, or 8.5% in the last day. Who knows? That can go up, that can go
Yeah,
down.
but now click it for a year to date, still
This is
pretty
the Stonk.
solid. Bonk.
Yeah, year to date up 105%. So I mean,
Yeah.
who knows what's happening? But I think one couple of things about that we'll get to the report and the call now is, one, this is the first time I've heard him sound like so depressed since probably early 2018 or late 2017. Even then, there was a kind of fighting spirit and hopefulness in him.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna push through, we're gonna make the model, we're gonna show you it's gonna be a tsunami of hurt for short sellers. We're gonna produce the Model 3 and you're gonna see, all of you. And last night, like, my goodness, he sounded legit depressed. He didn't have that fighting spirit. He had like moments when it's like he would normally say something else about full self-driving or robotaxis
Yeah,
or
like, oh, he's about to say something bonkers. Like, we're going to have robotaxis by the end of the year. We're going to have
yeah,
150,000 Cybertrucks out here by next Tuesday.
yeah.
And by the way, here's our new Ultra Roadster that we have rockets on the back of to get it from 0 to 60 instantaneously. By the time
Yeah.
you hit the gas pedal, it's already going 73 miles an hour. And like,
Instead of that, he was holding his tongue a lot. Like, he was just taking a long time to carefully choose what he was going to say, not to repeat himself, because he's been repeating himself a lot for the past few years
yeah,
about this topic. And
about all the time.
yeah,
2
and I
years away.
and I think he just sort of maybe got to the point like, okay, finally, maybe my overly optimistic approach is actually hurting us this time. Maybe it's actually wrong, and I pushed it too, and I went too far, and I shouldn't say it again what I think. But he said, like, I drive all around Austin without interventions on full self-driving, and it works. It works really well. And I'm like, one, it doesn't work everywhere. And he talked about the fact that it doesn't work when you expand it into new areas, because then there's just a lot more factors and it's much harder to get it to work everywhere. And he was like, well, we can't really expand beyond North America right now because of regulations, and because as we expand, it gets much harder for it to actually work. And this general AI approach, that's supposed to be what's so great about it. But as you expand more places, it's harder and harder to get it to work. And so, one, that, and I've written, we'll get back to that. And two, it's like, who would bet $1 that the full self-driving team doesn't optimize full self-driving for his driving area? Like, it is optimized for where Elon drives and the feedback Elon gives. There's no doubt about it. So yeah, it's going to drive perfectly for you, but no, that's going to give you a warped idea of what it's doing elsewhere. So anyway,
So it's funny though,
what?
I just had to, I don't know how we're going to edit this, but I just had to pause because Toyota's here to pick up their BZ4X. And I'm looking at this. I'm handing off the car as it's driving away. That car wouldn't exist if not for Tesla.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump. So we maybe we'll talk about that full self driving a little bit more, but I want to talk about the biggest, I think, issue for the stock, and related to all what we've been talking about, and that's the 50% CAGR, the 50% compound annual growth that's expected, and 50% more production and deliveries each year. So if you look at it in the top right here, production was up 18%.
Yeah, that's
in
not
Q3.
50.
It's not 50. It's up 20% for the Model 3 and Model Y, down 31% for the Model S and Model X. And I think the big part of the call was about, why is it 18%, not 50%? And when does it get back to 50%? That was what a lot of questions kept coming back to. And that's the issue. And so that affects things like gross
Well, it affects
profit.
things
Gross
like
profit. So if you look at
profitability, it
the
affects R&D budgets, it affects all of that. And especially, I think it's especially telling that we've seen over the course of the last year, sometimes in the area of 20-25% price reductions on some of these vehicles, and it's still not driving demand the
it's
way that you
driving,
would hope.
yeah, it's driving enough demand to keep selling everything you produce. But as was asked early on, when you're going to add new production lines, and he's like, we're not adding production lines because we don't have any need for them right now. So
Yeah.
if you look on the bottom right chart, you can just see the gross profit dropped. It's actually lower, not just than last quarter, but lower than the quarter before as well. So this is why this stock, I mean, this is, I think, why this stock is acting how it is. But if you look at this, how its cost of goods sold per vehicle has dropped significantly. This is where they have the positive story of they keep making the manufacturing more efficient, they keep lowering costs, and that's why also they can lower the price of the vehicles. But that's just a
But
piece of
that's
it. That's a
artificial,
part of
right?
it.
Because they cut back production on the S and X that cost more to produce. So you can mask
That's an
that a
interesting point.
little bit by cutting back on your by removing your most expensive product from the portfolio. You can artificially improve that number, which, and I'm not saying that that's what they're being accused of. I don't think 6,000 Model S's and X's is going to
Yeah, it's not going
move
to
the
change.
needle quite that far, but it's
But
not hurting.
no, that's an interesting point to roll in as well. They also, I mean, we know they constantly improve manufacturing processes, make things more efficient. They talked about removing barcodes because it's just a little sticker, but it's a penny here, a penny there. You add,
That's
multiply
it.
it by 500,000, and
But what about a motor here and a motor there? How many of the what does the mix look like now in terms of all-wheel drive and big battery
yeah, we don't.
versus two-wheel drive? Yeah, exactly. We don't have enough information. Um, and I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm not saying that the numbers are bad. I'm not saying that there's any ulterior motive. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying there are ways to manipulate that number that are totally legit that can paint a picture that is rosier than what you might initially suspect. Because remember, we're talking about all these improvements to the assembly line and this and that for Project Highland, but that's not reflected here.
Yeah, yeah. But one thing Elon talked a lot about was that the price of a Tesla is just too expensive for most people. And this was something I didn't expect him to be saying, because this is obvious to some extent, and this is what a lot of critics say, but they always make the argument, look how cheap it is if you roll in subsidies, operational savings, depreciation. And you last quarterly conference calls, like, you can get a Tesla for the price of a Corolla or a Camry. I forget which one it was that they
Corolla.
mentioned. And we wrote about that as well. We've written about that for years. But the bottom line still is, if you need to finance the car, you need to get a bank to approve the financing. Then you need to feel comfortable that you're going to make the monthly payment every month. You can't just drive less and have less fuel costs. You still have a monthly payment that's the same month after month, and you have to have enough of a deposit to put down. So this is what Elon talked a lot about, and it's like, yeah, we know that. That's why people are saying Tesla can't grow 50% year over year unless it offers a cheaper model. And the crazy thing is, they were not even going to produce a cheaper model, except as it came out in the Isaacson book, like, his team was like, found a way to trick him or convince him to do it, so that everything wasn't resting on the Robotaxi plans. And I think this is what it comes down to, is that this 20 million vehicles a year in 2030, this 50% CAGR, this is built on the back, and a lot of analysts supposedly don't take this into account. A lot of, the share price is supposedly not taking this into an account, but all of that is built on the back of the idea that they're going to produce robotaxis in high volume. So I think it's gotten to the point finally where they can't convince people anymore that 50% CAGR is realistic, that robotaxis are around the corner, that gross margins can go up forever. And I mean, Musk had a lot of these quotes in the conference call himself that other people, like critics, would normally give. The there was the one about the, if you increase 50% CAGR a year, not long, it won't be too long before you're in, counting the whole
Building more cars than there's people on Earth.
mass of the universe. Like, it's like, yeah, you can't do that forever. It's like, yeah, that's what people have been saying. But if anyone else said it, it's like you get attacked you hung on the wires for not for doubting, Tesla.
Lord Musk, yeah. And I think I really want to say, we had this conversation yesterday, and there was a quote there on the screen a second ago where they're talking about Cybertruck, and he made the comment during the conversation, we dug our own grave with Cybertruck.
Yeah, there it is.
Saying that they were really pushing on this. They wanted to produce something different. They wanted to produce something really eye-catching and symbolic and statementy and things like that. When you talk about the Cybertruck, you have to acknowledge that Tesla could have put something like a Honda Ridgeline body or a Rivian R1T body on top of its Model X skateboard, and they could have been swimming in pickup truck profits for the last 2 years, and they haven't done that. And I think it's also worth pointing out that there's a lot of people on that Tesla board, certainly a lot of Tesla shareholders, who are saying that they would prefer traditional advertising over all these price cuts.
Yeah, so talk about the
there you go.
So Carolyn had the article about it. A lot of shareholders have been asking for advertising. Elon responded to it by saying basically, well, we could advertise more, but people still just can't afford more. Like yeah, we can sell it's, and he highlighted, look, we're the Model Y is on track to be the top selling vehicle in the world, but the other vehicles around it are much cheaper, so we can't do much more than we're doing, even if we advertise. I don't know if that's true. I'm curious what you think.
I don't think that's true. First of all, I think it's very hard to convince someone that they are wrong about something. And it's even harder to convince someone that they're wrong about something if they've been successful in the past, because the mentality is, well, like, I'm so successful, ergo I am so smart.
Yes.
I mean, we can have a conversation about that. I would kind of go the other argument and say that, like, in order to be successful on the multi-million dollar level, you have to be fundamentally a little bit stupid. And actually, no, I think it's worth talking about. So let's just get into it a little bit. I had a good friend of mine, Dustin Hanna. He's an engineer, ex-Toyota engineer, ended up at Mercedes for a bit, doing some really high quality motorsports work. We were at lunch one day and he sat me down and he said, you and I are too smart to ever be rich. And I was like, ouch, that sucks. Why? What are you talking about? And he said, think about it. If somebody came to you and said, look, I have this idea and it's going to be, you're going to get 10,000 to 1, 100,000 to 1 returns. You're going to be a multi-billionaire. All you have to do is mortgage your house, liquidate your assets, and put it all into this stock. And we're going to do this, right? You're smart enough to say, well, that's 1,000,000 to 1 odds. That's never going to happen. You might agree with him. You might think it's a great idea, but you're going to invest what you can afford to lose, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever your financial situation is. You're not going to go all in 100% on one idea. However, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do that every day. They kind of roll the dice in life and they put everything they got into a stock or some idea, or, they're going to start a business, or sometimes it's just lotto tickets. They only have $40 to their name. They're going to scratch and win and hope for the best. Right. And when that pays off, that 1 in 100,000 times or 1 in a million times that kind of bet pays off, the response is not, oh man, I've been so lucky. The response is, I knew that was going to work. I am so smart. Everybody doubted me. And when you hit a couple of those in a row, like,
yeah, what if you do that 5 times?
You do that 5 times. It's really hard to accept.
Never gonna believe. You're never gonna believe someone telling you you're wrong.
Exactly. And I think that, and I'm not saying that Elon's a stupid guy. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying Elon has had against the odds success, against the odds success, against the odds success. The nature of statistics is going to tell you that eventually the odds are going to win. And we might be at that point. And I'm not saying that Tesla's going to go under. And first of all, I think that would be horrible. It'd be bad for the country, be bad for the planet. It would be bad for Clean Technica. it would be horrible if Tesla went under.
Right.
I don't think that's what's going to happen because it's making enough money to be sustainable. But are people going to invest? Are people going to care if it's not this like world beating type of giant tech company that's taking us to Mars? And
Yeah.
more to the point, will Elon still be engaged? If you can say that he's engaged at all, will he continue to be as engaged as he's been in something that is not, that is a, in actually running a business instead of changing the world? And I think that's a big challenge.
Yeah, and that's why I think the story is really more about the stock than anything else, because the company is extremely successful
Yes.
and it's going to remain extremely successful. It's the 9th best-selling auto brand in the US, which is ridiculous. To be this young, to break through this kind of industry, to survive and make it is insane. And by if anyone in 2012 or 2015 had told you it's going to be like here, you'd be like, woohoo, huge success.
Yeah.
But
Well, I said it wouldn't happen.
there's been plenty that's tied in to it.
Yeah.
I mean, even expecting it would happen, it's like, wow, it's crazy, it happened. So it's like
Yeah.
it's mind-blowing. And
It is.
but then there's been so much tied into it. And then as you said, like, oh, Elon's always right because he was right in all these crazy ways. I think, I mean, I don't know what it is right now, but for a long time, and probably still right now, the market cap of Tesla is like this, is like more than the market cap of the next 7 auto brands combined.
Yep.
It's like, it's bonkers. So that is built on the idea that it's not a normal automaker. It doesn't have to play by the rules. Its gross margin can go up and up and up. It's gonna get full self-driving figured out.
Yeah.
It's gonna become 20% of the auto market in 2030. All these sort of really wild assumptions.
Yeah.
Like, that's a whole nother level than Tesla can produce 500,000 cars a year by 2050. I mean 2020. So.
That's right.
Or
And you're
or
still
Tesla
looking at,
can become even the top. Even Tesla can become the top selling auto brand in the world. Doesn't compare to those things, or in the
right.
US. So it's going to be a huge success if it's selling 5 million vehicles a year, but that stock price is out of this world for that. So
Yeah.
I think
So
at this
even
point it's a little
now,
bit like
yeah, even
cats out of the
now
box.
with the stock down 15% over the last 5 days, the price per earning ratio, the PE ratio at Tesla stock is about 67 to, it's about 67. It's like 60, 67, 67, according to Yahoo charts at this exact moment. If you
Let me
look at
see. The
Ford
market
PE,
cap of Ford is 46.5 billion. The
yeah,
market
but
cap
don't
of
look at the
Tesla.
market cap. Look at the PE, the price
Yeah,
to
but
earnings.
I just want to but this is market cap. This is how much, so
Sure.
market cap is for a Ford is 46.5 billion. Market cap of Tesla is 693.5 billion.
Yeah.
That's not the same territory. There's not the
No,
same league. And
because
so I
you're talking about a PE ratio for Ford that is about 5.5 versus nearly 70, which is historically where Tesla has been. And where you see things that are like PEs in like the 70s, sometimes is really hot internet stocks, really hot, software stocks. And all of that was before the bubble burst in 2000, 2001. So you have to say that if Tesla is no longer a robotaxi company, and that seems to be what we were getting from the conversation last night, if they are no longer a software company, if they're no longer a tech company, if they're no longer an automation company, that makes them a car company. And 67, a PE ratio of 60 to 70 ain't where it's at. It should be like, I think, very generously 10, maybe 8. And that puts it at a reasonable price point of something like $50 to $70 a share, which is where I would put it. But again, nobody asked me.
Yeah, and look, I'm gonna get into dangerous territory here, and then we'll talk Cybertruck when we're done. But all of this is tied to robotaxis, in my opinion. You
Yeah.
cannot, like, if you
Well, it's not
remove
even your
robotaxis.
opinion. That's what he said. He said, if you
Yeah, he
remove
said it
Robotaxi, this
in the
company's not worth
book.
it. Yeah.
Like, this was quoted in the book. I don't think I've ever heard him say it publicly. I don't think he's ever been explicitly like, oh, our huge stock price is because of the belief in robotaxis from Tesla. But in the book, apparently he said this to someone. He's like, no, we have to make, oh, this was in the argument about the cheaper Tesla, because they were trying to convince him, like, what if full self-driving doesn't work? And
Yeah,
supposedly his response was basically like, it has to work because this is what our stock price is based on. Like, if it doesn't work, our stock price is insane and ridiculous. And it's like,
right.
so we have to make it work. And I think that's just sort of been his approach. We just have to make it work. So I personally am open-minded. It could work down the road. It's not close to it right now, but it could work. But I don't think it will work.
I don't think it's going to work. And
I
I'll tell
think this
you,
approach is just, it's like whack-a-mole. It's like seesaw effect, like fix one problem, it creates another for another driver, another region. I just don't think that's how you can really achieve regulatory approved robotaxis around the world.
yeah,
I do think what Waymo and Cruise are doing is possible, but it's costs a lot of money. So I don't know if it, it will ever be profitable. And the one I'm most bullish on recently was Xpeng, this Chinese smart EV startup. I think they have nailed robotaxi driving capability in a production car, and I think they're the only one who's done it, in my opinion. And they've just bought a wing of Didi, this basically Uber in China, and are going to produce the cars for Didi, a lot of cars for Didi, which, in my opinion, are going to be robotaxi capable cars that can drive all over China, which is about half of the world's auto market. So I think that wins the day in this field, and I don't think Tesla's approach is going to win. And I think I think they will be blocked out of China if if they continue doing what they're doing, and these other approaches which are starting to work in China work. So that's just my take on that. But we move away from robotaxis and full self-driving and talk to Cybertruck. Which story should we start with? The one you gave me?
I think let's just look at, so this is what the Cybertruck was initially believed to look like. And this was based on some leaked photos that had come out and some reports talking about how it was very angular and it wasn't like a conventional pickup truck kind of body. And this is Auto Week. These are some credible people. They came up with this based on like the police sketch, right, of what this thing could look like. Now, they got a lot of things wrong. And we even had at Gas 2, we had a rendering that we did that was effectively just a Model S Ute, like an Australian Holden, but based on the Model S. But I really want to point something else here. And this is something that one of our writers, Jennifer Sensida, said, in this push, in this desire to make the Cybertruck something special, quote unquote, to use Elon's words, they missed an opportunity. They could have built something practical. They could have built something along the lines of what they were already building 2 years ago. And they could have been cashing in and swimming in truck profits for the last 2 years, but they didn't do it. And if I was a Tesla shareholder, I'd be kind of cranky about that.
Yeah, and they're one of the things Jennifer mentions in her story is this Truckla, this this popular YouTuber turned a Model 3 into a truck or a ute, and this, very cool. And so people thought, well, this is what a truck could be like, but Tesla would do it better because they would do it themselves, not just modify a Model 3.
I think the expectation is that they would do it better. Sure.
I mean, they wouldn't just be modifying a Model 3, they'd be, building a production electric truck. So I don't know. So the argument is, her headline is quite fun. Tesla should be swimming in EV pickup profits like Scrooge McDuck, but Elon wanted to be special. That's what he sort of
and she's exactly right about that. Like again, Jennifer and I often agree on the big things, but disagree on nuance. I think this is perfectly worded. She got this 100% right. If you scroll down, there's a really great picture in her article of the Hyundai pickup. This is a great example. This is their like Santa Cruz pickup truck. And it's a little trucklet. It's not an F-150. It's not a Silverado, but it's a hot selling little vehicle. They've been selling them. They're all over the neighborhoods and people really like them. And we could have had something like this, something the height of a Model Y with a usable pickup bed. You know, we talk about this. I do a show with my buddy Mike from Stevens Engineering, who runs a fleet of about 500 assets, and they talk about all the time. Do we need a pickup truck? Do we need payload, or do we need a bed? You know, do we need a bed to haul stuff back from IKEA or Home Depot or Sod or whatever it is? And 9 times out of 10, what they need is a bed. And this could have solved for that, but there was some ego thing driving the decision to make the Cybertruck really crazy and wonky and make it look like a DeLorean. And I'm not quite sure what that was. And it seems to, as Elon Musk said, he's dug his own grave on that one.
Yeah, he said that. And he said that the joke goes, no one digs their grave better than themselves.
That's right.
But she also mentions the Ford Maverick, which I think is a great
great little vehicle
comparison for, you know, an efficient electric Tesla truck like the Ford Maverick. You know, I don't really know where I stand on. I think the Cybertruck has great appeal, brought a lot more people to the brand, is a very interesting vehicle that could be a big hit. I guess I think what should have been done, and I don't think it really affected how many vehicles Tesla's selling or anything, because I think Tesla's just ability to get batteries and to scale up production was limited enough that, I mean, the Model Y and the Model 3 together are filling the bucket, so to speak. So I'm not sure how much more a pickup truck would have added to it, but what I think should have been done is they should have had a more conventional Tesla pickup, like what we just talked about, and the Cybertruck.
Yeah.
And then they can scale up a truck more quickly and have another model on the line, and benefit from the high profit margins of pickup trucks. And then they can also develop the Cybertruck, and there's not a rush to get it to market. There's not if they have a severe, you know, production problems, they can, it's not like going to create so much press and so much disruption. So I think, I think
do you really think that the Cybertruck has brought anybody to the brand? And what I mean by that is nobody has one yet. So like, you can come to the brand as an enthusiast, you can come to the brand as a fan.
Yeah, not as a buyer. I'm not.
You haven't bought, you have contributed $0 to Tesla's bottom line. So how much value is that worth?
I mean, I think it brought people to the brand. I think it brought people to the brand, and then they learned more about Tesla, and then maybe they did get another Tesla, but I don't know how much. But yeah, I don't really, you know, I think it's just a case of biting off too much then you can chew again, and that's sort of the story of the call. It's like we were over ambitious in what we thought was possible, as far as 50% growth a year, full self-driving, the Cybertruck, gross profit margins, interest rates being 2% forever, and which was, I mean, he talked a lot about this, and the fact of the matter is, interest rates were suppressed for a couple of years when they should have been rising, so that when you get to a situation where you need to drop them, you can drop them and deal with that. But there's so much that went wrong with the economy. But yeah, I mean, they were legitimately suppressed, and they were never going to stay low forever. You can't do that. That would be idiotic. So people thinking, oh, we'll always have low interest rates and prices will get lower and lower, we're expecting too much. So that was a summary of my expectations for Tesla have just gotten too ridiculous, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. We have a picture. We can end with this maybe. There's a nice picture of Cybertrucks on a Tesla Semi in their slide deck, which sort of the irony
sort of encapsulates the problem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Weren't we supposed to have 150,000 Tesla semis on the road by now, by the way? We just ignore that the whole time.
My favorite Tesla vehicle. I mean, that's the sad story in itself so far. So yeah, that's
all right.
That's
our show for the day. We'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have some better news about
we can say BMW joined Tesla's North American charging standards. So
well, that's nice for Tesla. They still have that.
So that's
peace.
Hi, my name is Scott Cooney. I started Clean Technica to promote clean energy and other sustainable alternatives, and for 13 years, we've been moving markets. If we had a nickel for every time someone told us they bought their first EV, solar, e-bike, or fill in the blank clean energy solution, we'd be a cable TV channel by now. But we don't get those nickels. So unfortunately, we could use your help to reach a few more people. If just 1% of our audience chipped in a few bucks a month, we could hire dozens of great journalists and promote all sorts of climate solutions. It's easy. Just go to cleantechnica.com/support and sign up with a credit card in seconds. Cancel anytime. But we'll be sending out some cool perks too, so I think you'll want to stick around. With your support, we'll keep leading the charge. Thank you so much.